Are you by any chance in the market for a very strong build that can solo dungeons with ease? Well, look no further than this complete guide to my Arc Hunter build that I've used to solo flawless practically every dungeon, made much better by the somewhat recent introduction of Arc 3.0. And by somewhat recent I mean 4 months ago. Why am I always so late with these build videos? First up, the basics. For this build I use the exotic Assassin's Cowl, which can be gotten from completing the Shadowkeep campaign on Hunter. This is going to allow powered melee kills and finishes to make you invisible, which is going to be a key component for survivability when using this build. Subclass Arc, obviously. Use the Gathering Storm Super for some nice DPS, Gambler's Dodge, and, most importantly, use Combination Blow as your melee. How this build works, if you're not familiar with combination blow stacking, is you get a single melee kill which gives you back your dodge, which you can then use near enemies to refresh your combination blow and gain your dodge back again. Combination blow will stack up to 3 times, gaining loads of damage with each kill. For higher health enemies, use a 1-2 punch shotgun to increase your damage even further. More on that later. As for aspects and fragments, we're using the flow state aspect to become amplified on jolted kills, decreasing our dodge cooldown, gaining resistance while dodging, and increasing our reload speed. Additionally, we're using the lethal current aspect to jolt and blind targets with melee hits after dodging. Dodging will also give you an increased lunge range and cause melee hits to create an aftershock. Quite a lot to digest there, but it's all really good. The fragments I used are Spark of Ions to create ionic traces on jolt kills, Spark of Resistance to reduce incoming damage when surrounded by combatants, Spark of Frequency to increase our reload speed on melee hits, and Spark of Feedback to slightly increase your melee damage after getting hit by one yourself. That last one's basically a mini Liar's Handshake, it's great. Now, what mods and armour should you pair with this build? Well, mobility is going to be next to useless as you're getting your dodge back constantly anyway. Recovery is going to be less useful for near enough the same reason. Assassin's Cowl heals you on melee kills. I'd still like to prioritise this though. This leaves resilience, discipline, intellect and strength to spec into when choosing armour. Use the Site D2 armour picker to select a stat combination with high resilience, preferably 100, alongside a relatively even distribution between discipline, intellect and strength. You might think that strength isn't that useful since you're getting back your melee from the dodge, but in practice you'll often be left without either of your abilities, whether that be due to a poorly timed dodge or just the build being finicky in general. Having a shorter melee cooldown for these situations can mean the difference between surviving and not surviving. Once you have an armour set sorted, there are a variety of mods that you'll want to equip too. Firstly, double melee wellmaker. Generate wells on powered melee kills. You're getting loads of melee kills, so using this to generate infinite showers of arc wells for your abilities is going to make sense. Secondly, bountiful wells to allow melee wellmaker to stack and give you more wells. Thirdly, well of ions. This is going to increase your melee damage after picking up an arc well, as we're picking up quite a lot of those. The only downside is that this only lasts for 1 punch, so you've got to make it count. And finally, if you have room, well of striking. This is going to be useful for getting back your combination blow if you're in a pinch. Now for weapons, there's a couple that you should be looking out for. As mentioned earlier, you'll want a 1-2 punch shotgun. My personal favourite is the DEICIDE, but I don't believe that's currently available. Other solid options are the Wastelander or the Reignited D. Who named that gun? For kinetic, and either Found Verdict or One Small Step for energy. You're looking for the perk 1-2 punch, obviously, but in the first slot look out for auto-loading holster to reload automatically, grave robber to reload on melee kills, or slide shot to reload when you slide. I personally prefer grave robber. These kind of auto-reload perks are going to be really useful as you don't want to be wasting your invis timer constantly reloading. And that's basically it. Once you get a bit of momentum with this build, you become pretty much unstoppable. Like a falling guillotine through a horde of thrall. That's probably the most specific simile I've ever used. This build can obliterate anything in your path with ease. Insert a clip of me dying here, followed by me saying that's unfortunate because I totally haven't done that before.